Hey everyone, it's David here with your weekly Mouthful David video. Before we get into the actual video though, like always, we'll get into the updates. So if you haven't heard already, you probably have, but just in case you haven't, we did start a Patreon, which if you haven't heard of that service before, it's basically a service where you can pay people who, put out content that you like, just give them a little bit of change so that they can keep their shows going. For us, we actually personally, Nick, Cameron, and I don't pocket any of the money. It goes toward our editor, Caroline, who is fantastic. She makes us sound audible, which is quite a miracle. And so for us, it goes to her, and then show upkeep, basically. So if you're able to give anything, that would be great. We have 3 different tiers: $1 a month, $5 a month, and $8 a month. And each comes with like different, things, different bonuses that you get. Nothing that we've done before goes behind this paywall, so obviously these weekly videos, you're watching this right now, so it's not behind a paywall, but our movie episodes, our normal episodes, nothing like that you have to pay for. Everything that we're doing for the Patreon is something that we didn't do in the past, so things like book reviews, videos about Nick angrily ranting and stuff, input on some of our episodes, early access to the episodes that everyone gets, just a bunch of different things. So again, if you can check that out and give what you can, that would be very much appreciated. Other than that, we just dropped our newest episode about the 1953 coup in Iran that the United States and British did against the democratically elected Mohammad Mossadegh, the Prime Minister of Iran. So if you haven't heard that, check it out. Our next episode is going to actually be a series of episodes, probably 4 parts, about the Algerian War for Independence. So, be on the lookout for those. We actually haven't even completely finished recording yet because there's just so much to it. So those are coming down the pipeline. Those are going to be occupying our time for a little while. So, hopefully y'all like that when it comes out. It'll definitely be our most thorough series that we've done so far. But anyways, with that being said, on to this week's video. I've had a lot of people tell me when they tell me that they really like history, that they like to read biographies, which is, very cool. I like to read biographies myself too. And actually, I'll be talking about one in particular, the most recent one that I read, to illustrate the point that I'm going to make in a moment. Biographies are great because they allow you to hone in on the achievements of noteworthy historical figures, which is very cool. There, in my opinion, are some very noteworthy individuals from history, and it's cool to read up on the effect they had on the world. There is a little bit of an issue, though, if the only histories you're reading are biographies. Again, I say only. If you're reading biographies, that's awesome. Definitely keep doing what you're doing. But if you're only reading biographies, you get not just a biased account of history that is, of course, showing what that one individual did, but you're actually getting a fundamental view of history that is skewed in one way. And it's this idea that great individuals are the primary movers of history. There are some exceptions. There are some biographies that are very good at situating their subject in a greater context. And usually you can kind of tell by the title. There might be a book, like, perfect example, one that I read about the Mexican Revolution called Zapata and the Revolution by John Womack. And it talks about Zapata, and it doesn't do so in a way, though, that only talks about him and what he did for the revolution. It puts his actions in a context of a greater web of cause and effect, historical cause and effect. But for the most part, a lot of biographies are really focusing on this framework that shows prominent individuals influencing history, which is a good perspective to expose yourself to, but again, if it's the only one, that can be an issue. So, for example, at the beginning of this year, I was reading Grant by John Edward Smith, which is a very good biography. Highly recommend it. It is a fantastic portrait of Grant. It obviously is very favorable toward him, but not without being afraid to critique when necessary. The issue is, say you wanted to learn about Reconstruction, which is part of the reason why I actually started the book. If you only read Grant's biography, and maybe even a biography of someone like Frederick Douglass, for example, get a little bit more diverse perspective, right? If you read only a couple biographies about a certain specific historical topic, then you're only getting the perspective of prominent individuals and their influence on things. But the thing about history is it's this very complex web of cause and effect where social forces and, in many cases, widespread movements are just as responsible, usually a little bit more so, for what happens in history than just prominent individuals. And actually, in a lot of cases, the talent of the prominent individuals involved is that they're very good at recognizing these forces and harnessing them in a lot of ways. And so, if you want to learn about Reconstruction, just sticking with this example, the Grant biography is a fantastic, book to check out, as is the narrative of the life of Frederick Douglass. But Eric Foner's writings about Reconstruction are also great because they give sort of a big picture view of what happened. And, this really includes delving into the role of newly freed, formerly enslaved people, of black folks who had been free, even before the Civil War, of just, even white, like, farmers and workers and stuff. So you get a much more wide-ranging perspective. And then, of course, you have Black Reconstruction in America by W.E.B. Du Bois that really focuses on the role of black folks in fighting for Reconstruction. And that's the thing about learning about a topic in depth is you want to read at least a couple sources, but you also want to look at different sources, not just because of extra information they contain, but also because they have different assumptions about how history works. And so if you're reading, again, you're reading Foner and Du Bois, you're getting a much wider net cast, which is going to give you more depth of information. So keep reading biographies, keep, enjoying, whatever you want to about history. But if you really do want to learn about a topic in depth, just make sure that you're looking at, a couple different kinds of sources. And of course, I'm using books here because I am a giant dork and I have a history MA. But, by all means, if you want to read a biography about someone, but you want to find out more about the time period, you can even look up articles or even, popular history like YouTube videos or whatever you want to do. But just make sure you're checking out different sources and not only focusing on sources that highlight individuals. So with that said, thank you for listening, everyone. I hope you like this video. I'll catch you next week. Stay safe, and thanks for listening.